right, we are online. 1 second. Here we go. I think we are, oh, that was quick. I think we are ready to roll. Just the light. Maybe put me in the corner. That would be better. Yeah. That one's better. All right. So we're going to chant now, Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giribharadhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giribharadhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Sadashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Machuram Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Yamunamaya Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivisheshavati Paschatcha Dejatarani So Om Ganat Timidanda Shah Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigaraveda Maha. I offer my respectful obeisances on lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So we're continuing with our Nectar of Devotion explanation of Krishna's qualities. So before that, we chant these prayers, or this prayer, to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. One of the verses from the Goswami Ashtaka written by Srinivas Acharya. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Vandena Maktaliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raguyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. That's ecstatic. Okay, so now we'll go to the Nectar of Devotion. We're reading about the qualities of Krishna. And we're up to, I think, quality 51. I am correct. Yes, I am correct. Krishna is changeless. Krishna does not change his constitutional position even when he appears in this material world. Ordinary living entities have their constitutional spiritual positions covered. Not changed, but covered. They appear in different bodies, and under different bodily concepts of life they act. But Krishna does not change his body. He appears in his own body and is therefore not affected by the modes of material nature. Remember that verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Jopisana Avyatma Puttanam Misharo Pishram Prakri Swam Adhishtaya Samavami Abmaya. Krishna says, when I appear in my original transcendental form. And when we appear in our bodies of what? Yuck. Vile mucus, air. It's called Tridaduke. In the first canto, 11th chapter, verse 38 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the special prerogative of the Supreme Controller is that he is not at all affected by the modes of nature. The practical example of this is that devotees who are under his protection of the Lord are also not affected by material nature. What is that verse in the Gita? Nobody remembers it. Mamchayo Vyavacharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sargunan Savati Jaitan Brahmabhuyaya Kapate. One who engages in my devotional service rises above the modes of material nature. To overcome the influence of material nature is very difficult. Mamamaya Devachya. But the devotees or saintly persons who are under the protection of the Lord are not affected. So what need is there to speak of the Lord himself? To be more clear, although the Lord sometimes appears in this material world, he has nothing to do with the modes of material nature, and he acts with full independence in his transcendental position. This is the special quality of the Lord. Next one is all cognizant. That means he knows and sees everything. Any person who can understand the feelings of all persons and incidents in all places at all times is called all cognizant. And in the Gita, Krishna says, I know everything past, present, and future, and no one knows me. A nice example of the all cognizant quality of the Lord is described in Srimad Bhagavatam First canto, 15th chapter, verse 11, in connection with Durvasa Muni's visit to the house of the Pandavas in the forest. Following a calculated plan, Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni and his 10,000 disciples to be guests of the Pandavas in the forest. Duryodhana arranged for Durvasa and his man to reach the place of the Pandavas just when the Pandavas' lunchtime ended, so that the Pandavas would be caught without sufficient means to feed such a large number of guests. Knowing Duryodhana's plan, Krishna came to the Pandavas and asked their wife, Draupadi, if there were any remnants of food which she could offer to him. Draupadi offered him a container in which there was only a little fragment of some vegetable preparation, and Krishna at once ate it. At that moment, all the sages accompanying Durvasa were taking bath in the river, and when Krishna felt satisfaction from eating Draupadi's offering, they also felt satisfaction. Their hunger was gone. Because Durvasa and his men were unable to eat anything more, they went away without coming to the house of the Pandavas. In this way, the Pandavas were saved from the wrath of Durvasa. Duryodhana had sent them because he knew that since the Pandavas would not be able to receive such a large number, Durvasa would become angry and the Pandavas would be cursed. But Krishna saved them from this calamity by his trick and by his all-cognizant quality. I think I need to tell that story in a little more detail. Well, of course, the Kurus, headed up by Duryodhana, always wanted to get rid of the Pandavas, and the Pandavas were actually in exile at that particular point because they had lost the gambling match, and they had lost everything. In the beginning, they even lost their life. But then at the end, there was a all-or-nothing gambling match, which if the Pandavas lost, they would have to go to the forest for 12 years. At the 13th year, it would be incognito, and if they were discovered during that 13th year, they would have to go through another 13 years. Anyway, getting back to the story, Duryodhana really wanted to play a trick on the Pandavas and get them cursed. Because Durvasa Muni, he had a temper. If you really didn't toe the line with him, cross your T's, dot your I's with him, you would get cursed or killed. Just like there's that story of Maharaj Ambarish, was getting ready to break his Ekadasi fast, and Durvasa Muni came, and Durvasa Muni went for his bath, and while he went for his bath, Ambarish Maharaj decided, let me take a little water to break the fast, but not break the fast simultaneously and not offend the guest. Durvasa understood, came back, created a demon from his hair that was supposed to kill Maharaj Ambarish, and Maharaj Ambarish was protected by the Sudarshan Chakra, the Lord which killed the demon and almost killed Durvasa Muni, but Durvasa Muni had to apologize to Maharaj Ambarish. Anyway, so Durvasa had a bad temper. You wouldn't want to rile him up for any reason whatsoever. So Duryodhana thought, I will send him to the Pandavas after Draupadi is eaten. Now, why did I say Draupadi? Because the Pandavas had this pot, and this pot could supply unlimited food. And that was good because one of the Pandavas' name was Rikodara. That was Bhimsen, who had, as described by the name, a wolf belly. Sometimes if you eat too fast, our mothers would say, don't wolf the food down. Well, he was always wolfing the food down, and he could eat so much. Practically speaking, he hardly left over anything for everyone else. When the 5 Pandavas sat down to eat, guess what happened? They would divide all the food in half, including their mother was there too, or their wife was there. And half Bhimsen would eat, and half the other devotees would eat, the other Pandavas and Draupadi would eat. Okay, so that's why they needed a pot like that. It could supply unlimited food. However, the ability to supply unlimited food at a particular meal was only there until Draupadi ate. As soon as Draupadi ate, the pot could not supply unlimited food anymore. So Durvasa Muni and his 10,000 or 10 million disciples, let's see how many does it say here? 1,000. Okay. 10,000 disciples. It's a lot, 10,000, 10 million. They came to the Pandavas just after Draupadi had eaten. So anyway, so the Pandavas were in anxiety, and the Pandavas were thinking, what are we going to do if we get cursed by Durvasa? We are finished. So they said, let's buy ourselves some time. Okay, Durvasa Muni will prepare some nice food for you. Please go to the river, take your bath, do your mantras, your gayatris, and everything like that. And when you come back, don't worry, we'll have food. So, all right. So they all came back. They sat down, did their mantras before eating, and we're thinking, actually, no, the movie is wrong, sorry. I was quoting the movie. But they were taking their bath. Okay, while they were taking their baths, Pandavas didn't know what to do. And Draupadi, in this particular situation, and in every situation when she was put into stress, into a dilemma, into problems, she ultimately took shelter of Krishna. In fact, one of Draupadi's names was Krishna, not Krishna, Krishna. Okay, got it? And so she cried out for Krishna, just like when there was the attempted disrobing in the assembly house. So she cried out, Krishna, Krishna. Actually, another name of Draupadi is Yagyaseni, which means she who was born from a fire sacrifice. Anyway, that's another story, which we will tell another time. So anyway, she cried out, Krishna, 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 help! And all of a sudden, Krishna appeared there and he said, what's the problem? She said, we can't feed all these different sages. We're going to go to hell. And Krishna said, I'm hungry too. And she was thinking, oh my God, I could not feed the sages, and now I can't feed Krishna either. What am I going to do? And she said, we ate already. There's nothing left. And Krishna said, show me the pot. So she shows him the pot. And at the bottom of the pot, there was a little vegetable, rice or something. And Krishna took it, put it in his mouth. Delicious. And he was fully satisfied because of the love of his devotee. Because Draupadi had prepared everything, and she had so much love. No one can satisfy Krishna even with mountains and mountains and mountains of food unless the food is offered with love and devotion. And if the food is offered with love and devotion, Krishna will be satisfied even with a banana peel. Not to say that you should do that. So Krishna was satisfied, he burped, and then all the sages, including Durvasa Muni, who were bathing in the river, their bellies expanded. Boom! And they burped. Actually, that word burp is onomatopoetic. It sounds like what it is. I just realized that. Burp. Right? Many words sound like what they mean. Like dog, bow wow, cat, meow, like that. So burp. The same thing. It's interesting. They all burped and they felt, oh my God. If we go and we can't eat anything, the Pandavas are going to be completely upset and offended. And Durvasa Muni remembered the time when he offended Maharaj Ambarish. And he thought, oh my God, I don't need another encounter like this. And all the disciples, the 10,000 disciples, and Durvasa Muni ran away as fast as their little legs could carry them. And that's the story. So 53, ever fresh. Krishna is always remembered, and his name is always chanted by millions of devotees, but the devotees never become saturated or satiated. Instead of becoming disinterested in thinking of Krishna and in chanting his holy name, devotees get newer and newer impetus to continue the process. Therefore, Krishna is ever fresh. Not only Krishna himself, but also Krishna's knowledge is ever fresh. Bhagavad Gita, which was imparted 5,000 years ago, is still being read repeatedly by many, many men and women, and still new light is always being found in it. Therefore, Krishna and his name, fame, qualities, and everything in relationship with him is ever fresh. And I often give this example that You can try chanting something else other than God's names, like your name, if it's not God's name, or you can chant the name of your country, America, 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 Ooh, it is horrible to keep chanting something over and over and over and over again. But you can chant Krishna, 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 Krishna. And it becomes more ecstatic each time. That's ever fresh. All the queens at Dwarka were goddesses of fortune. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 11th chapter, verse 33, that the goddesses of fortune are very fickle and restless, so no one can consistently captivate them. Thus one's luck will always change sometimes. Yet the goddesses of fortune could not leave Krishna for even a moment when they were residing with him at Dwarka. This means that Krishna's attraction is ever fresh. Even the goddesses of fortune cannot leave his company. Another point that we should make, and this point is actually from the Ramayana, that the one name of the goddesses of fortune, or a goddess of fortune, is Lakshmi, or Lakshmi is in the plural. And the interesting thing that is often made by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, that one cannot have Lakshmi without Vishnu, or let's go to the Ramayana, one cannot have Sita without Ram. If one tries to have Lakshmi, now let's give a common word for Lakshmi, M-O-N-E-Y. I guess I should translate that for you. Money. Money or wealth or gold or opulence, like that. That's Lakshmi. Just like when someone gives a donation to the temple, they're giving Lakshmi to the temple. Anyway, so the point is that if one tries to have Lakshmi without Vishnu, or Lakshmi without Krishna, one gets something called Maya Lakshmi. Now, Maya Lakshmi, another name for Maya Lakshmi is Durga. Durga is the superintendent of the material creation. The name Durga also means basically superintendent, to move with great difficulty or function with great difficulty. So Durga gives you trouble. And Lakshmi without Narayan, Lakshmi without Krishna, is Chanchala. That's mentioned by Prabhupada above. Chanchala means flickering. So one day you have it, another day you don't. And even when you have it, it causes you misery because that's Durga. And when you don't, it causes you misery because you don't have it, and that's Durga also. So going back to the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, Lakshmi appeared as Sita Devi. And she was married to Ram, who is an expansion of Krishna. Okay, so Ram can have Lakshmi, Ram can have Sita Devi, but there was one demon who wanted Sita Lakshmi, and his name was Ravan. Okay, and so he made a whole plan to kidnap her. I'm not going to tell the whole Ramayana today, but basically he disguised himself as a Brahmin, as a priest. And he was able to take who he thought was her away. But actually, the trick that Ram had was that before Sita Devi was kidnapped, she actually exchanged herself. She went under the care of the demigods, particularly Agni, for a reflection of herself, Durga, or Maya Lakshmi, as the case may be, a reflection of herself. And the kidnapping was done of the reflection of herself. That is Durga. And so Ravan started to lose all of his fortune as soon as he kidnapped who he thought was Sita Devi, but was actually Durga or Maya Lakshmi. And so he lost everything. So the story of the Ramayana tells us, or explains to us, or demonstrates to us that you cannot have Lakshmi or Sita without Ram or Narayan, Vishnu, Krishna. So remember that. But a devotee can actually have opulence because he has Krishna. Very simple. Regarding Krishna's attractive features being ever fresh, I guess I should give an example of that before I continue. Let's take the example of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada before, this is a pastime, of course, this is not meant as any sort of negativity. So before Prabhupada took sannyasa and went to the Western world, he had lost all of his, let's say, external material fortune. His businesses went bankrupt. His wife opposed him in preaching at every step. His wife took his Srimad Bhagavatams and sold them for tea biscuits. Oh my God. Everything seemed to be against. And his godbrothers, even after he took Vanaprastha, they actually didn't help him at all. They didn't even encourage him at all. Not all of them, but 99% of them didn't encourage him, and some of them were envious of him. Anyway, but as soon as he took sannyas and went to America to carry out the order of his spiritual master, he got so much opulence. Prabhupada would often talk about the opulence that he obtained. He said, who is there could start a business with 40 rupees, which is what Prabhupada had when he came to the United States, and he wasn't even able to change that to dollars. So who can start a business with 40 rupees and have 40 crores within a short time? Of course, a crore is 10 million rupees, so just to let you know. So 40 crores, that's a lot of money. So, Prabhupada left his family and had a wife who really didn't listen to him, and children who really wouldn't cooperate with him, and then he got so many nice children, spiritual children, who would do anything for him. So you see, you surrender to Krishna, and then your opulence automatically comes, as long as you use it in Krishna's service. It's not that you surrender to Krishna and your opulence comes, and then you just pig out after that point. No, because then you're not surrendered to Krishna anymore, and then you lose your opulence. Okay, regarding Krishna's attractive features being ever fresh, there's a statement by Radharani in the Lalita Madhava in which Krishna is compared to the greatest sculptor because he is expert at chiseling at the chastity of women. In other words, although chaste women may follow the rules and regulations of Vedic principles to become ever faithful to their husbands, Krishna is able to break their stone-like chastity with the chisel of his beauty. Most of the girlfriends of Krishna were married, but because Krishna was their friend before their marriages, they could not forget his attractive features, which were always fascinating to them, even after their marriages. Wow. So, of course, there's many interactions Krishna had with the gopis before they were married. And even Krishna got married to the gopis before they were married, some secret marriage ceremonies. And also with the whole point of Krishna stealing the clothes of the gopis. And we'll tell that story in the Srimad Bhagavatam when we get to it during Bhagavatam class. 54. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. It means a form that's full of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Krishna's transcendental body is eternal, full, and bliss. For those of you who don't know what bliss is, I know I'm not pronouncing it right. Bliss. That means ecstasy, unlimited ecstasy. I'm blissful. Sat means ever existing for all time and in all places. In other words, all pervading in time and space. Chit means full of knowledge. Krishna has nothing to learn from anyone. He is independently full of knowledge, and Ananda means the reservoir of all pleasure. The impersonalists are seeking to merge into the Brahman effulgence of eternity and knowledge, but the major portion of the absolute pleasure which is in Krishna is avoided by them. In other words, they don't experience any happiness. One can enjoy the transcendental blissfulness of merging into the Brahman effulgence after being freed from the contamination of material illusion, false identification, attachment, detachment, material absorption. These are the preliminary qualifications of a person who can realize Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that one has to become full of joyfulness. This is not exactly joyfulness, but a sense of freedom from all anxieties. Let me explain what Prabhupada is talking about here. That when one merges in Brahman, or thinks one's merging Brahman, one experiences the bliss of the absence of pain. That is bliss. I mean, who could deny that? But it's not a positive bliss. Just like we have a lady here who comes to the temple every day to meditate on the Brahman. And there is no happiness manifest in her. It's just like neutrality. And she may be a great yogi, a Brahman realized yogi. I don't know. But she's able to sit there for so much. She spends more hours in the temple than any of the devotees we have. And I'm just thinking, I wish I had devotees so determined to serve Krishna as this lady is to meditate on Brahman or whatever she's meditating on. But there's no bliss. You can't see any happiness in her countenance at all. It's all just neutrality, just zoning out, as they say. Freedom from all anxieties may be the first principle of joyfulness, but it is not actual joyfulness. Those who realize the self or become Brahmabhuta, Srimad Bhagavatam 4:30-20, are only preparing themselves for the platform of joyfulness. That joyfulness can be actually achieved only when one comes into contact with Krishna. Krishna consciousness is so complete that it includes the transcendental pleasure derived from impersonal or Brahman realization. Even the impersonalists will become attracted to the personal form of Krishna, known as Shaima Sundara, beautiful blackish boy. It is confirmed by the statement of Brahma Samhita that the Brahman effulgence is the bodily ray of Krishna. The Brahman effulgence is simply an exhibition of the energy of Krishna. Krishna is the source of the Brahman effulgence, as he himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita. That's Brahmano. He pratishtaham. From this, we can conclude that the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth is not the ultimate end. Krishna is the ultimate end of the Absolute Truth. The members of the Vaishnava schools, therefore, never try to merge into the Brahman effulgence in the pursuit of spiritual perfection. They accept Krishna as the ultimate goal of self-realization. Therefore, Krishna is called Param Brahman. That means the Supreme Brahman. That's Param Brahman. Or Parameshwara, the Supreme Controller. Sri Yamunacharya has prayed as follows. My dear Lord, I know that the gigantic universe and gigantic space and time within the universe are covered by the 10 layers of material elements, each layer 10 times larger than the previous one. That's earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false, ego. Woo. And if you're interested in hearing further descriptions of those coverings, go to the Brihad Bhagavatamrita when you have Gopakumar going through them all. The three material modes of nature, the Garbhadakshay Vishnu, the Shiradakshay Vishnu, the Mahavishnu, and beyond them the spiritual sky and the spiritual planets known as Vaikunthas, and the Brahman effulgence in that spiritual sky, all of these taken together are nothing but a small exhibition of your potency. Wow. Who can understand Krishna? Possessing all mystic perfections. There are many standards of perfections. The highest, who is sending a message? VHAD. Audio is very what? Very, I can't even see it, very what? What is the message? Weak. Audio is very weak. Let's see if I can up the volume. Hold on a second. Audio settings. Audio settings. Looks like they're properly set. It's on automatically adjust. I mean, I could turn it a little louder, but it's might distort. Okay. It's going to be a little louder now. All right. Hold on a second. So other people can hear it fine. Yeah, so anyway, so it's just someone has a problem, so it's hard, but you can't adjust for just one person and then distort for everybody else. It's just not a good idea. There are many standards of perfection. Okay. The highest material perfections obtained by perfect yogis are listed as 8 to become the smallest of the small, the greatest of the great, etc. Actually, There's some politician who says he's the greatest of the great right now. Maybe he has some mystic powers. I'm just joking. All of these material perfections, as well as all spiritual perfections, can be found fully in Krishna's personality. 56, Krishna's inconceivable potencies. Krishna is present everywhere, not only within the universe, not only within the hearts of all living entities, but also within every atom. In the prayers of Queen Kunti, we find mention of this inconceivable potency of Krishna. While Krishna was talking with Kunti, he simultaneously entered the womb of Uttara, who was in danger due to the atomic weapon of Ashvatam. Krishna can illusion even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and he can protect all surrendered souls from the reactions of sinful activities. These are some of the examples of his inconceivable potencies. And I think I should tell that story. Okay, so there was this rascal, Ashvatam, who was alive at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, and he actually killed the 5 sons of Draupadi, as well as Drishtadyumna and many other people that were left alive after the battle of Kurukshetra. Big problem that he did that. So anyway, the Pandavas attacked him and brought him to justice, and then what he did is he fired his arrow, the Brahmastra weapon, which was like an atomic bomb, at the Pandavas. Arjuna pulled out his atomic weapon to counteract the first atomic weapon. He withdrew it when he was asked to do that by Vyasadeva. And then Ashvatam redirected his atomic weapon at the child within the womb of Uttara, who was the descendant of the Pandavas. And so what happened is Krishna, in order to protect the child within the womb, he actually entered into the womb and protected this child. This child later became known as Parikshit, the examiner. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore offers his obeisances unto Krishna by saying, Krishna, who is present as a human being, has as his mere shadow the whole material nature. He has expanded himself into so many calves, and cowherd boys, and he has again manifested himself in all them as the four-handed Narayana. He has taught millions of Brahmas self-realization, and thus he is worshipable not only by the heads of all universes, but by everyone else at all also. Therefore, let me always accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's SPOG for short. When Indra was defeated by Krishna in the matter of taking the Parijata plan from heaven, Narada met Indra and criticized him. Oh, Indra, great king of heaven. Krishna has already defeated Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So what can be said of an insignificant demigod like you? Narada Muni, of course, was criticizing Indra jokingly, and Indra enjoyed it. In Narada's statement, it is confirmed that Krishna was able to illusion even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva as well as Indra. So there's no question of Krishna's power to do the same to lesser living entities like us. A description of Krishna's power in minimizing the sufferings of sinful reactions is given in Brahma Samhita as follows. Beginning from the great king of heaven down to the ant, everyone is undergoing the reactions of past deeds. But a devotee of Krishna is relieved from such reactions by the grace of Krishna. This was clearly proved when Krishna went to the place of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, to reclaim the dead son of his teacher. Krishna's teacher had requested Krishna to bring back his dead son. And to do so, Krishna went to the place of Yamaraj to claim that soul who had been brought there by Yamaraj and was being kept under his control. Krishna immediately ordered Yamaraj, be benefited by my order and return that soul unto me. The purport of this incident is that even a person who is under the regulative principles of the laws of nature and is therefore punishable by Yamaraj under these laws can be granted complete immunity by the grace of Krishna. Just like if one gets a pardon from the President of the United States, one will not have to go to jail. And we've seen that happen, even with the greatest criminals. Of course, we cannot compare Krishna to the President of the United States, but a similar principle applies. Krishna's inconceivable potencies have been described by Shukadeva Goswami as follows. Krishna is bewildering my intelligence because although he is unborn, He has appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is all-pervading, but still he is held on the lap of Yashoda. In spite of his being all-pervasive, he has become limited by the love of Yashoda. Although he has innumerable forms, still he is moving as one Krishna before his father and mother, Nanda and Yashoda. In Brahma Samhita also it is said that although Krishna is eternally living in Goloka Vrindavan, his transcendental abode, he is still present everywhere, even within the atoms. That's inconceivable. Goloka evanibhashyati akilatma bhuta. That's the verse from the Brahma Samhita. Krishna's body, 57, generates innumerable universes. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, "My dear Lord, false ego, intelligence, mind, sky, air, fire, water, and earth are the material ingredients of this universe, which can be compared to a gigantic pot. In that gigantic pot, my body is of insignificant measurement, and even though one of the many universes is created by me, innumerable universes are coming and going from the pores of your body, just as atomic particles are seen flickering in the sunlight. I think I'm very, very insignificant before you, and I am therefore begging your pardon. Please be merciful towards me." If one takes account of only one universe, he will find so many combinations of wonderful things within, because there are innumerable planets, innumerable residences, and places of demigods. The diameter of the universe is 4 billion miles. Prabhupada is taking that according to what the scientists say. And it is infested with many unfathomable regions known as patalas, or lower planetary systems. Although Krishna is the origin of all this, he can always be seen in Vrindavana exhibiting his inconceivable potencies. So who can adequately worship such an all-powerful Lord, possessed of such inconceivable energy? 58, the original source of all incarnations. Jayadev Goswami in his Gita Govinda has sung as follows: "The Lord has saved the Vedas in the form as a fish, and he has borne the whole universe on his back in the form of a tortoise. He has picked up this earthly plant in the water in the form of a boar. He has killed Hiranyakashipu in the form of Nrsimha. He has cheated Maharaj Bali in the form of Bhavana. He has annihilated all the dynasties of the Kshatriyas in the form of Parashurama. He has killed all the demons in the form of Lord Ram. He has accepted the great plow in the form of Balaram. He has annihilated all the atheistic persons in the form of Kalki. And he has saved all the poor animals in the form of Buddha." These are some of the descriptions of the incarnations emanating from Krishna, and from Srimad Bhagavatam it is understood that innumerable incarnations are always coming out from the body of Krishna, just like waves in the ocean. No one can even count how many waves there are, and similarly, no one can count how many incarnations are coming from the Lord's body. So, this is a famous prayer by Jayadev Goswami, and we sing one stanza of the prayer every morning. What do we sing? Keshavadrita Nara Hari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hari. Remember? Tabakara Kamala Bare Nagama Bhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Nara Hari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hari. So what we sing is that you've assumed the form half man, half lion to kill the demon Tanubringam, like an insect. Hiranyakashipu is the demon, of course. And Krishna, you have taken this particular pastime, it says. So this one verse and all the verses in this particular poem illustrate the fact and prove the fact that Krishna is the source of all the incarnations. And the Bhagavatam also says, Ete Changsa Kalak Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And this is after the Bhagavatam gives a whole list of incarnations or expansions or avatars. And it says, all these different personalities are portions of, or plenary portions of Krishna, who is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, and the Brahma Samhita corroborates that fact in many verses. Krishna gives salvation to the enemies he kills. Another name for salvation is apavarga. Apavarga, this is very interesting, this particular word. Apavarga is the opposite of pavarga, or the various miserable conditions of material existence. The word pavarga indicates the combination of 5 Sanskrit letters. Pa, ha, va, ba, and ma. These letters are the first letters of the words for 5 different conditions, as described below. The first letter, Pa, comes from the word Parabhava, which means defeat. In this material struggle for existence, we are simply meeting defeat. Actually, we have to conquer birth, death, disease, and old age. And because there's no possibility of overcoming these miserable conditions due to the illusion of Maya, we are simply meeting with Parabhava, or defeat. The next letter, Ha, is taken from the word Hina. Hina is the foam which is found in the mouth when one is very tired, as is commonly observed with horses. Foaming to the mouth. The letter Ba comes from the word Banda, or bondage. Ba is taken from the word Viti. Ba is taken from the word Viti, or fearfulness, like Bhaya. Ma is taken from the word Mriti, or death, like Mritu, Mriti. So the word Pavarga signifies our struggle for existence and our meeting with defeat, exhaustion, bondage, fearfulness, and at last, death. Apavarga means that which can nullify all these material conditions. Krishna is said to be the giver of Apavarga, the path of liberation. Would it be good to be freed from defeat, exhaustion, bondage, fearfulness, and death? Whew. What a relief. For the impersonalists and the enemies of Krishna, liberation means merging into the Supreme. We heard this before. The demons and the impersonalists do not care for Krishna, but Krishna is so kind that he gives this liberation even to his enemies and to the impersonalists. There is the following statement in this connection. Oh, Murari Krishna, how wonderful it is that although the demons, who are always envious of the demigods, have failed to penetrate your military phalanx, they have penetrated the region of Mitra, the sun globe. The word Mitra is used metaphorically. Mitra means the sun globe, and Mitra also means friend. The demons who opposed Krishna as enemies wanted to penetrate his military phalanx, but instead of doing this, they died in battle, and the result was that they penetrated the planet of Mitra, or the sun planet. In other words, they entered into the Brahmana effulgence. The example of the sun planet is given here because the sun is ever illuminating like the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable illuminating Vaikuntha planets. The enemies of Krishna were killed, and instead of penetrating Krishna's phalanx, they entered into the friendly atmosphere of the spiritual effulgence. Now, phalanx, for those of you who don't know, is a military arrangement of soldiers. Okay. And to penetrate it means you're defeating the whole military arrangement of soldiers. To not penetrate it means they defeated you. That is the mercy of Krishna, and therefore he is known as a deliverer of his enemies also. 60. The attractor of liberated souls. There are many examples of how Krishna attracted even great liberated souls like Shukadeva Goswami and the Kumaras. In this connection, the following statement was given by the Kumaras: how wonderful it is that although we are completely liberated, free from desire, and situated at the stage of Paramahansa, we are still aspiring to taste the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So this is in reference to a particular verse in the Bhagavatam called the Atmanamas verse. Atmanamas cha muniyo nigranta piya rukrame korvanti ahaituki bhakti itambuta gunahari. And that verse states exactly what this principle is, that those who are self-satisfied are attracted. Let's see, there's another chat here. Everyone's saying it's fine for me. I'm fine too. I'm okay, you're okay. So that verse states that even those who are liberated are attracted to Krishna. And we gave the example, let's say some weeks before, not only about the Kumaras, but about Shukadeva Goswami, who was within the womb of his mother, something like 16 years, didn't want to come out because he didn't want to fall into illusion, all this lovey-dovey stuff from his parents. He thought, better just stay here and meditate on Brahman. But when he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken, he immediately popped out, 16 years of age, and ran away from home. Why did he run away from home? He didn't want to get into all this mushy-gushy stuff with his parents. And his father was running after him. Oh my son, as described in the Bhagavatam. Only the trees and the mountains, they would echo his plaintive cry, oh my son, oh my son, oh my son. And Shukadeva Goswami, in order to pacify his father, used his mystic powers to create a clone. And that clone looked exactly like him. The clone went back with the parents. And Vyasadeva was very happy to have this clone, even though he knew it was a clone, but at least he had a kid after all these years, waiting 16 years. A long time for a kid, all your aspirations and everything like that. So that was Shukadeva Goswami. He was liberated and still attracted by Krishna's pastimes, qualities, names, form, etc. of Krishna. And the four Kumars, they were four young kids. They were 5 years old, absorbed in Brahman, but as soon as they entered into the outskirts of the Vaikuntha region, and they smelled the tulsi leaves and flowers and lotus feet offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, they actually changed their mind and became great devotees and great acharyas, and they're the heads of a sampradaya called the Kumara Sampradaya. There's four of them, and they always remain small. Why do they always remain small kids? Because they remain brahmacharis for their whole lives. I'm not going to tell you what brahmachari is, because it may be politically incorrect right now. So, all right, so on that happy note, tomorrow we'll go ahead with the four qualities that only Krishna and Vrindavan manifest. And now we will allow you to unmute yourselves. Give me a second. Okay. You are technically allowed to unmute yourselves now. Who wants to speak first? Whoops. Any volunteers?
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai Krishna Leela. So, you have some questions?
Just very quick one from yesterday's class, Gurudev. You mentioned that we should give respect and should not call mom with the name and father with the name. And you mentioned a little bit about the husband. My quick question and a funny question is, how do we in this today's life respect our husband? How do we call our husband in Krishna consciousness?
How do you call it? How you call your husband? Just say to your husband, "Where's the money?"
In Krishna consciousness, how should we respect that?
anyway, just a nice thing like Pati Dev or dear. Use some nice term that actually helps develop a nice relationship. All right.
I heard some ladies saying Swami. Is that more appropriate?
In Indian culture, it's used quite often. But the word Swami means master. But nowadays, most people don't consider their husbands to be the master. So it's better. It's better you just have a practical name like dear or honey or something like that. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, a big, anyway, it's a different world nowadays. So it's just a different world. I don't think we can impose upon people like what went on 5,000 years ago. That's a nice question. Anyway, call him whatever you can call him. Just make sure he gives you money. I mean, that's the main point. Not what you call him.
Gurudev, we say Prabhuji. Is Prabhuji appropriate for the husband?
Yes, Prabhuji is appropriate for the husband.
Okay.
And the husband can call the wife Pravi. No, Pravi, not Mataji. Because it's not that the wife is the husband's mother. He should call the wife. He should call the wife Pravi, which is the feminine Prabhuji. Or some nice term like Priya, dear, or whatever is nice. Whatever works. I mean, the main thing is it creates too much looseness in a relationship to use names. So there has to be some like respectable term. I mean, even the husband shouldn't be calling the wife, hey, hey, whatever, hey, hey, Betsy, or something. He should be called the wife, dear. It creates a much nicer relationship, even between children and the mother. Children shouldn't call the mother by their name. Mother, dear mother. It sweetens up the relationship to use the right names. names are very important because the names, how we call something or someone, shapes our consciousness. You understand? Shapes our consciousness.
Yes, yes.
And you see that in politics, and we've seen that in America that, particular politicians call another politician some name, derogatory name, and it sticks in the consciousness, and you actually see the person through that designation or name or label. It's very important. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Actually, it's nice to see Bhakti there. Hare Krishna Bhakti. It's good to see you.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Very nice.
Good to see you too, Guru Maharaj.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, maybe. When you talk about Draupadi in this lesson, you told that she always take a shelter of Krishna, and
right.
she was yes, and well, whenever we want to take a shelter of Krishna in our day life, I just want to know maybe how we can recognize that we had a shelter, that Krishna accept our calling, maybe you understand me, what I want to say?
I understand the question. So how do we recognize, well, if we're crying out with actual devotion or with for help, it depends on our emotional intensity. Like if you're crying out, oh Krishna, and really crying and feeling the emotion, then you know that Krishna has actually accepted you in that way. So it's really an internal thing. In other words, you know how you're feeling, and it shouldn't be just, as we say sometimes, crocodile tears. You know what crocodile tears are? No.
Yeah.
Crocodile tears are like you do in the theater, that you just cry out because you're such an expert actress. So it should be just, we actually have to have the bhav or the feeling. And once we have the bhav or feeling, we know that Krishna is reciprocating when we chant his holy name. It's not, Krishna may decide to do anything he wants. He may not actually do what we ask him to do when we're crying out to him. He may actually do the opposite because he does what's good for us rather than what we ask him to do.
If I can say something.
Yeah.
Well, it's something like, today some theater called me tonight and tell me that I had a award for one role. And one devotee told me that Krishna manifests himself like one who wins, I don't know the word. And but I couldn't realize by myself that it's Krishna, who manifests in my life in that time, and sometimes we need a big knowledge to know when Krishna manifests in our life.
Yeah, well, I think Krishna is manifested in your life every day.
Of course, I agree. Of course.
And Krishna is making the arrangement, whatever award that you're winning is Krishna is making the arrangement. Sometimes it's difficult to appreciate when things happen. And then after about 10 or 20 years, then one could look back. That's called retrospect. One can look back and understand why Krishna did what he did. But sometimes when Krishna is doing what he's doing, we may not understand why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe sometime later.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
But we have faith that Krishna arranges everything, and I can see in my own life that Krishna arranged many things that really I didn't understand when they were happening, but now I understand, several years later. Because once one cries out to Krishna, and accepts Krishna, Krishna never forgets his devotee. Even if for some time the devotee seems to have forgotten Krishna, Krishna never forgets his devotee, and Krishna always brings his devotee back to him.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bhakti. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Maharaj.
Bhakti's in Croatia, for those of you who don't know. Nice devotee. So, who else has a question? Praneshwara.
Gurudev.
Yes, Praneshwara.
Yes. Yeah, like my question is like the wife is chaste and faithful. So what are the parameters to check either she is faithful or she is chaste or not? So what are the dimensions to check them?
I mean, what is chastity and faithfulness?
Yes.
Is that your question?
And
That means
how to check?
Well, chastity and faithfulness means that one sticks with someone regardless. We stick with Krishna regardless of whatever happens in this world. It's just taking a relationship with Krishna. Let's not take a material approach to this. That means one stays with Krishna and his devotees no matter what. Does that explain what chastity and faithfulness is?
Yes,
Like
Gurudev.
Prabhupada, even though Prabhupada endured so many reverses in his life, he never lost faith. He never gave up. He always continued serving Krishna in every circumstance. And there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, Tate nutam kampam susumikshimana bunjanabhatma kritam vipakam ridvag vapuravir vidadam namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadayabhak. That one who goes on tolerating all the reverses that may occur and doesn't blame Krishna, just thinks these are simply token reactions for my past activities in this world. That person, and he goes on serving Krishna with his body, mind, and words simultaneously, that person becomes a fit recipient or inheritor for pure devotional service. It's a famous verse in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada actually loved this particular verse and quoted it in regard to his own situation quite often. All right? So just tolerate Praneshwara. And someday or other, get a clear camera on your phone so it doesn't always look like we're looking at you through fog or something like that. Your phone always looks like I'm looking through a smoky glass or something. I know it's romantic, but I don't need to see a romantic picture of you. All right? Fix the camera on your phone, please. Okay, who else has a question? Any other questions? No. Nobody else has a question. That's interesting. No. Who else? Oh, Krunamai, you have a question? No. Okay. No one else.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Guru. Can I ask one question?
Yeah, Radha Padma.
Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. My question is regarding addressing with initiated names. For example, in my spiritual life, I'm much younger than, let's say, Sumukh Prabhu. So if I have to call him, how would I say, am I allowed to say his full name like Sumukh Das?
As long as you say Prabhu. As long as you say Prabhu along with his full name.
So can I use the word Das as well?
It's kind of unwieldy. I guess you could. Samukh Prabhu Das, Samukh Das Prabhu.
Yes, Sumukh Das Prabhu. Is it appropriate to call him like this?
I guess it's appropriate. It just gets a little unwieldy when you start calling someone such a long name. Usually people shorten the names anyway when they start calling each other. For example, there's a name of, there's a name of one devotee who I know. His name is Kamsa Hari, the killer of Kamsa. And so everybody calls him Kamsa. Or your name is Radha Padma, so I'm sure some people are calling you RP. Anyone, they call you RP sometimes?
Yes. Krishna Kanta calls you sometimes. RPDD.
RPDD, yeah. And, my name, because it's even longer, they call BKG. Actually, even when they talk to me, godbrothers, but not disciples, obviously. BKG. So anyway, do what's practical as long as it's respectable, the way your nomenclature is respectable.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my question was this only, that adding das does this, I heard it from somewhere saying that as juniors, we should not use the word das because this is only allowed for the spiritual masters to be used. Is it correct?
Das? No, you can use the word das.
Okay.
Sumukha Das Prabhu. It's fine. Das means servant. We're all servants. It's not Sumukha is Sumukha. He's Sumukha Das. It's not that you are Radha Padma. You are Radha Padma Devi Dasi. So it's all right. You can say Radha Padma, her grace. Radha Padma Devi Dasi. Her grace, Radha Padma Pravi Devi Dasi. Okay. I think that's it for right now. All right, so we're going to end. So we'll speak to everybody, see everybody tomorrow, same time, same station. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.